To this day, the Chernobyl power plant explosion is said to be the worst nuclear disaster in history. The explosion has had lasting effects to this day, and the area is still considered hazardous to visit. So today I'm going to be telling you some horror stories from that day. From the workers who got trapped inside during the explosion to the countless people that died from radiation poisoning. Let's talk about this and more only in today's video. Top 5 real dark stories from Chernobyl. Hey everyone, what's up and welcome back to Most Amazing Elite, the channel only for the very best. That's why I'm on it. I'm just kidding. But before we begin, to make sure to smash that like button and obviously subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And also comment something down below because obviously I do comment shout outs. So the more you comment, the more likely it is that I'm going to see your comment and shout you out. Just saying. Anyway, let's get on with the video. Starting off this countdown, we have the lasting effects. The Chernobyl explosion had lasting impact for years. So only 31 people died as an immediate result to the explosion. But thousands died later on from the exposure to the radiation. In fact, it's reported that the accident was responsible for nearly 20,000 cases of thyroid cancer. Not only that, but other people suffered from radiation poisoning, which was a very slow and painful death. Sadly, they would die alone because their family couldn't be around their radioactive body. On top of that, many others suffered from leukemia, and some children were even born with birth defects or abnormalities from their mother being exposed to the radiation while pregnant. A survivor, Nikolai Kalugin, shared what his experience was like. He talked about how hard it was fleeing from their home. Not only that, but his wife and daughter broke out into black spots afterwards from the radiation. His daughter sadly did not survive. Another survivor shared his scary experience watching his friend die. He said, and I quote, "My friend died. He got huge, fat like a barrel. And my neighbor, he was also there. He worked a crane. He got black like coal and shrunk so that he was wearing kids' clothes." That's very scary. Imagine going through that or witnessing it happen to your friend. In our fourth spot, we have the Black Bird of Chernobyl. Ever heard of the legend of the Mothman? Well, Chernobyl has its own cryptid that's very similar to the Mothman. It's been given the name the Black Bird of Chernobyl, and it must be like Mothman's distant cousin or something, because the two are very alike. So according to some survivors of this accident, they claim that shortly before the nuclear plant meltdown, they all encountered the same creepy experiences. It started with the nightmares. They would get terrifying ones. And then they started receiving threatening phone calls, warning them that something was going to happen. Lastly, a bunch of people claim to have encountered a huge winged bird creature. Legend goes that these were all warning signs that the disaster was going to happen. The creature they saw was a large beast like a man with huge wings and red eyes. Some even claimed that they saw it over one of the reactors as it went through the meltdown. I don't know about you, but I find that very creepy. In our third spot today, we have Vasily Ignatenko. Vasily Ignatenko is regarded as a hero in Ukraine. He was one of the first firefighters to the scene after the explosion. He climbed to the roof of the power plant as an attempt to extinguish the fires. Sadly, while on scene, he was exposed to a lethal dose of radiation and passed away. He was only 25. The time leading up to his death was very scary. It took him 2 weeks to pass away. It was a very slow and painful death. Apparently, he would excrete blood more than 25 times a day. And he even would cough up pieces of his own organs. His wife, Ludmila, sadly watched this all happen. And since she was in close contact with him, her health was severely affected as well. According to her, and I quote, "They couldn't get shoes on him because his feet had swelled up. They had to cut up the formal wear too because they couldn't get it on him. There wasn't a whole body to put it on. They couldn't get a single pair of shoes to fit him. They buried him barefoot." That is very, very depressing. Moving on to number 2, we have the casualties. As I said before, 31 people died immediately from the explosion. The stories of how they passed are very tragic. I will only be discussing some of them though. For starters, we have Stepanyos Valcheslav. He was in the turbine hall at the moment of the explosion. He received a fatal dose of over 1,000 and passed away. Then we have Viktor Daktarenko. He was a reactor operator. He was at the pumps during the explosion and had his face scalded by steam, and he died instantly. Moving on to Valery Ilyich Kodemchuk. His body was never found. They don't know what happened to him. but likely he died instantly during the explosion, and his body is probably buried under all the wreckage. And then we have Viktor Kabednuk. He was the head guard. He was supervising the firefighters on the roof, and he died after inhaling too much smoke. His face ended up getting badly burnt and blistered as a result. Several other individuals in that plant sadly lost their lives that day. I wish I had time to list all these brave souls. And in our number one spot today, we have the performers. So believe it or not, but performers were brought into Pripyat to try and calm the residents there. This story was told by a man named Yuri. He was a musician, a classically trained pianist. So when the accident occurred, his musical/dance troupe was contacted by the government to help calm the residents in Pripyat and the surrounding areas. Just hours after the meltdown, they were there. And at that time, no one knew how dangerous it was for them to be there. They gathered around the sick and dying and performed. Yuri said he was horrified at what he saw. Some people were already losing their hair and teeth in front of them. For their final performance, they played music as a ballerina danced. Towards the end, blood started pouring out from her nose and down her ears. The performance in Pripyat had literally killed her. That's when Yuri knew it was too dangerous for them to be there. By the time he got back home, he had lost his vision. The exposure to the radiation caused him to go blind, and he suffered from a number of health problems. Yuri was the only musician who survived that day. Alright guys, that's all for today's video. I know it was a pretty heavy one, so let's try and lighten the mood with some comments. I'm going to be shouting out some comments from the video. Scary real time travel stories that will baffle you. Tissoy ML commented, I love you! Well, I love you too, random person. Oh, okay. And then Baywatch responded to that and said, I love her more. She's mine. Back off. Well, hello. Don't fight over me, please do. I'm just kidding. I'm very grateful. Thank you guys. And the very talkative Felix commented J. But they were the first comment, so I guess it's a lot of pressure to come up with something to comment first. So they were just like, okay, J, enter. Well, you still got a comment shout out. So maybe let me know your favorite letter in the comments below. Is it L for Lindsay? Or L for love? Anyways, alright guys, that's all the comments I'm shouting out for today's video. Make sure to comment something down below for a chance to be featured in my next comment shout out. And as always, don't forget to give this video a big thumbs up and subscribe to Most Amazing Elite for more elite videos. I've been your host, Lindsay Ivan, and I'll see ya when I see ya.